Ethan Cole had been driving freight trucks across the United States for nearly 11 years. He'd hauled frozen meat through Wyoming blizzards, electronics across Nevada deserts, and fuel tankers through thunderstorms so violent they rattled his teeth. Trucking wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. More importantly, Ethan preferred the road over people. In November of 2021, he was assigned a late-night delivery from Salt Lake City, Utah to Las Vegas, Nevada. The route took him through long stretches of empty highway where the desert looked endless even during daylight. At night, though, it became something else entirely. Pitch black, silent, dead. Ethan left Salt Lake around 7:30 p.m. By midnight, there were barely any headlights on the road except his own. His radio crackled with static every few minutes, and his coffee had long gone cold. The weather forecast predicted strong winds near the Nevada border, but for now the desert was unnaturally still. That bothered him. Truckers notice things regular drivers don't. When nature goes silent, it usually means something is wrong. Around 1:15 a.m., Ethan spotted an old rest stop sign. Rest area 1 mile. Normally he wouldn't stop, but his bladder was killing him and exhaustion had started creeping into his vision. He'd caught himself drifting over the shoulder line twice already, so he pulled in. The rest stop looked abandoned. For broken light poles stood in the parking lot, but only one still worked, flickering weak yellow light across cracked pavement. 2 rusted vending machines stood near the bathroom building. One had been smashed open. There were no cars, no people, not even trash blowing in the wind. Ethan parked his rig near the entrance and climbed down slowly. The cold desert air hit him immediately. Smelled dusty, almost metallic. As he walked toward the restroom building, he noticed something strange. The women's restroom door was slightly open, and from inside came a faint humming sound. At first he thought it was electrical buzzing, but the closer he got, the more it sounded human. Someone humming softly. Ethan stopped walking. "Hello?" he called out. The humming stopped instantly. No response. He stared at the dark doorway for several seconds before convincing himself it was probably just another traveler. He entered the men's restroom quickly. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Half the mirrors were shattered, and one sink continuously dripped water into a black stain below. When Ethan stepped back outside, the humming started again. Soft, slow, almost melodic. Except now it sounded farther away, like it had moved behind the building. Every instinct told him to get back in his truck, but curiosity got the better of him. He rounded the corner cautiously. Nothing, just darkness stretching into the desert. Then he saw footprints.
Bare footprints.
In the dirt behind the building. They led away from the rest stop toward a small hill covered in rocks. Ethan frowned. Who walks barefoot through the freezing desert at 1 o'clock in the morning? He pulled out his flashlight and followed the tracks a short distance. That's when he saw the car. A white SUV parked behind the hill with all its lights off. His driver's side door hung open. Ethan approached slowly. "Hey!" he shouted. "You okay?" No answer. The flashlight beam swept across the inside of the vehicle. Empty. But there was blood on the steering wheel. Not a lot. Just enough to make his stomach tighten. Then his flashlight landed on the back seat. There were dozens of photographs scattered everywhere. Every single one showed truck drivers. Some were standing beside rigs at gas stations. Some sleeping inside cabs. Some talking on phones. And some looked completely unaware they were being photographed. Ethan backed away slowly. A sudden crunch echoed behind him. He whipped around. A woman stood about 20 feet away in the darkness. She was barefoot, wearing a dirty white dress. Long black hair covered most of her face. Ethan nearly jumped out of his skin. "You need help?" he asked carefully. The woman tilted her head unnaturally far to one side. Then she smiled. Not normal smiling. Too wide. Way too wide. "You weren't supposed to see the pictures," she whispered. Ethan immediately turned and sprinted toward his truck. Behind him he heard laughing. Not loud laughing. Quiet giggling, like she found something funny. He reached the cab, scrambled inside, and locked the doors. As the engine roared to life, movement appeared around the rest stop. More people. At least 4. They stepped out from behind buildings and parked structures like they'd been hiding there the entire time. All of them staring directly at him. One man carried a baseball bat. Another held what looked like a hunting knife. Ethan slammed the truck into gear. As he pulled away, the woman walked into the middle of the parking lot and simply watched him leave, still smiling. For several miles, Ethan kept checking his mirrors. Nothing.
No headlights. No pursuit.
Eventually, he convinced himself he'd escaped whatever nightmare that place was. Then his CB radio crackled. Static filled the cab. A voice whispered through the speaker. "Truck number 74. Ethan froze. That was his truck number. The voice crackled again. "We know where you stop." The radio went dead. Ethan's blood ran cold. Only his company dispatcher knew that number. Hands shaking, he grabbed his phone and called Highway Patrol. The dispatcher listened carefully before telling him officers would investigate the rest stop. Then she asked something that terrified him. "Sir, how did they know your truck number?" Ethan didn't answer, because he already knew. Someone had been watching him long before that night. And for the remaining 4 hours of that drive, every pair of headlights behind him felt like death catching up. Marcus Reed started trucking at age 23 after leaving the military. By 2020, he'd become one of the most reliable long-haul drivers in Oklahoma. He mostly drove overnight because traffic was lighter and dispatch paid bonuses for faster deliveries. That decision almost got him killed. It happened during a run from Amarillo, Texas to Nashville, Tennessee. Marcus had crossed into Arkansas sometime after 2 a.m. Rain hammered the windshield so hard the wipers could barely keep up. Thunder rolled constantly across the sky, the kind of storm that made highways feel haunted. Traffic was almost non-existent except for one vehicle Marcus kept noticing in his mirrors. A black pickup truck, old model, no visible license plate. At first it stayed far behind him. Then it got closer and closer until its headlights filled his entire mirror. Marcus cursed under his breath. Truckers hated tailgaters. He changed lanes to let the pickup pass. But it didn't. Instead, it matched his speed perfectly. Marcus glanced over. The windows were too dark to see inside. After several uncomfortable minutes, the pickup suddenly accelerated and disappeared ahead into the rain. "Finally," Marcus muttered. 10 minutes later, he saw it again, parked on the shoulder, hazard lights flashing. The driver's side door hung open. Marcus considered driving past, but something bothered him. The truck looked abandoned in dangerous weather. Against his better judgment, he pulled over about 50 yards ahead and grabbed a flashlight. Rain soaked him instantly. "Hello?" he shouted while approaching. No response. The pickup's engine was still running. Marcus shined the flashlight inside. Empty. Mud covered the floorboards. There was a strong smell inside the cab. Rotten. Like spoiled meat. Marcus gagged and stepped back. That's when lightning illuminated the woods beside the highway. And for one split second, he saw people standing. Marcus forced a laugh. "You serious?" The old trucker didn't smile. 3 truckers disappeared last year near those woods. Silence settled over the group. Rain continued pouring outside. Then another driver pointed toward the highway. The black pickup sat far away near the interstate entrance, his headlights off. "Waiting. My name's Daniel Harper." and I've been driving trucks across the United States for almost 13 years now. I've hauled everything from frozen food to military equipment. Most people think trucking is easy money, just sit down and drive. Those people have obviously never driven 12 hours through empty highways at 3 o'clock in the morning while fighting sleep so hard your vision starts blurring. The road changes you. You stop thinking like normal people after a while. You start noticing strange things. Cars parked where they shouldn't be. People standing in places no one should stand. Lights deep in forests where there are no houses for miles. And after enough years, you learn the most important rule of trucking. If something feels wrong on the road, keep driving. I learned that lesson too late. This happened in October of 2019 during a delivery from Denver, Colorado to Memphis, Tennessee. It was a long haul, nearly 14 hours, but the pay was excellent and I needed the money badly at the time. My wife had recently undergone surgery, and hospital bills were stacking up faster than I could handle. So I took every extra route possible. That night, I was somewhere in western Kansas on Interstate 70. If you've never driven through Kansas at night, let me paint the picture for you. Nothing, just endless darkness. Flat land stretching forever beneath a black sky. No mountains, no cities, no sound except your engine and tires humming against asphalt. By around 1:30 a.m., exhaustion was beginning to hit me hard. My coffee had stopped working hours ago, and I kept catching myself zoning out for seconds at a time. That's dangerous in a semi. One mistake and you're dead. I needed a place to stop. I checked my GPS and saw a tiny gas station coming up near exit 214. It wasn't a major truck stop, just some small roadside place, but at that point I didn't care. I took the exit. The station sat alone beside the highway surrounded by empty fields. Two ancient gas pumps stood beneath flickering lights. The convenience store attached to it looked barely alive. There were only two vehicles parked outside.
Odustu sedan.
And an old sheriff's cruiser. I remember immediately feeling relieved seeing the police car. It made the place feel safer somehow. I parked my rig near the side of the building and climbed down. The cold air woke me up instantly. As I walked toward the store, I noticed something strange. The sheriff's cruiser was empty. Driver's side door slightly open. Engine running. That gave me a weird feeling immediately. Still, I figured the deputy was inside grabbing coffee or using the restroom. I entered the gas station. The bell above the door jingled loudly. Inside smelled like cigarettes and stale food. A skinny teenage cashier stood behind the counter staring down at his phone. He looked up briefly when I walked in. "You guys still got coffee?" I asked. The kid nodded silently and pointed toward the back. Something about him seemed nervous. His hands were shaking slightly. I grabbed the biggest coffee cup they had and filled it nearly to the top. As I walked toward the register, I noticed another person standing near the refrigerators in the back corner. A woman, long blonde hair, gray hoodie, standing completely still, not browsing, not moving, just standing there facing the refrigerator door. I remember thinking it was odd, but not terrifying or anything. People are weird at 2 o'clock in the morning. I walked up to the counter. "That sheriff outside yours?" I asked the cashier. The kid glanced toward the window. Then his face changed, almost like fear crossed it. "He's been gone a while," he muttered quietly. "What do you mean?" The cashier swallowed hard. "He went outside with that woman maybe 30 minutes ago." I looked back toward the refrigerators. The woman was gone. I frowned. "What woman?" The kid stared at me. "The one standing behind you." Every hair on my body stood up. I turned instantly. Nothing. The back of the store was empty. I laughed nervously. "Very funny." "I'm serious," the cashier whispered. The kid genuinely looked terrified. That's when the lights flickered overhead. Once, twice, then everything went dark. The entire store fell silent except for the buzzing of refrigerators shutting off. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then we heard something outside. A loud metallic bang, like someone slamming against a car. The cashier immediately ducked behind the counter. "What the hell?" I muttered. Another bang echoed outside. Then another. I moved carefully toward the window and froze. The sheriff's cruiser was shaking violently, like someone was inside struggling. The driver's side door swung wider open, but from where I stood, I couldn't see anyone inside. Then a hand appeared, the deputy's hand. It clawed weakly against the door frame before suddenly disappearing back inside the vehicle. I stumbled backward. "Oh, hell no." The cashier started panicking. "We need to lock the doors." He rushed over and flipped the deadbolt shut just as a figure emerged from behind the cruiser. The woman, blonde hair hanging over her face, gray hoodie soaked dark with something wet. She walked slowly toward the gas station entrance. Not normal walking either. Her movements looked stiff, jerky, like her joints bent wrong. I backed away from the glass instinctively. The woman stopped directly outside the door, head lowered, motionless. Then slowly, she looked up. Her face was covered in blood. Not cuts, not injuries, just smeared blood across her mouth and cheeks. And she was smiling. A deep cold feeling settled in my stomach. The cashier began crying quietly. "She came in earlier asking for help," he whispered. "The deputy took her outside and then..." He didn't finish. The woman raised one hand slowly and knocked on the glass. 3 soft taps. "Top, top, top." Then she spoke. "Please let me in." Her voice sounded wrong. Not human exactly, like multiple voices speaking at once beneath hers. The cashier shook his head violently. "No, no, no." The woman knocked again, harder this time. "Please." Then the lights outside shut off completely. Darkness swallowed the parking lot except for the cruiser headlights. The woman disappeared from sight. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a metal mop handle leaning against the wall. We waited. Silence filled the store. No movement, no sound. Then came scratching. Slow scratching against the side wall of the building, like fingernails dragging across metal. The noise circled the gas station gradually. One wall, then another, always moving, always scratching. The cashier looked like he was about to faint. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course. The scratching stopped abruptly behind the building. Then we heard footsteps on the roof. Heavy footsteps, walking slowly above us. The ceiling creaked with each step. I stared upward in disbelief. How the hell did she get up there? Neither of us answered. The footsteps crossed directly overhead, then stopped, directly above us. Silence. Suddenly, a loud crash exploded near the back hallway. We both jumped. A storage room door had swung open violently. Darkness filled the hallway beyond it. Then we heard breathing, deep breathing, not far away. The cashier whispered, "She was never alone." That sentence hit me like ice water. Before I could respond, movement appeared at the end of the hallway. A tall man stepped partially into view, at least 6'5", wearing filthy overalls, holding a hammer. His face remained hidden in darkness, but I could see his smile. Why, unnatural. He took one slow step forward. I immediately grabbed the cashier. "We're leaving. The back door. Now." We sprinted through the side aisle while the man began walking faster behind us. Not running, just walking, but somehow gaining quickly. We burst through the employee exit into the freezing night air. My truck sat maybe 50 yards away. Too far. The woman suddenly appeared beside the gas pumps, blocking the direct path. Still smiling. Blood covered her hoodie now. The cashier screamed. Then headlights exploded across the parking lot. Another vehicle entered from the highway, an old black van. The moment it stopped, 3 more people climbed out, all carrying something: chains, tools. One had a shotgun. Every instinct in my body screamed trap. The woman started laughing softly. That snapped me out of it. I grabbed the cashier and sprinted toward my truck as the group started chasing us. The sound of boots slamming pavement echoed behind us. Someone shouted, "Don't let them leave." I reached the cab first and practically threw the cashier inside. I climbed in after him, locked the doors, and started the engine with shaking hands. One of the men reached the passenger side just as the truck roared to life. He slammed something heavy against the window. Crack. Glass splintered instantly. I floored the accelerator. The semi lurched forward. The woman moved into our path at the last second, still smiling. I swerved violently around her and nearly jackknifed the trailer. The group scattered backward as my truck thundered past them. Then gunshots erupted behind us. Boom! Boom! One bullet shattered a rear mirror. The cashier screamed uncontrollably while I forced the truck back onto Interstate 70. I pushed the semi harder than I ever had before. 80, 85, 90. The entire truck rattled violently. For several minutes we thought we escaped. Then headlights appeared behind us. The black van, catching up fast. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. The van closed distance aggressively. Its high beams flooded my mirrors. Then it rammed the trailer. The entire truck shook. Another hit. Harder. The cashier was sobbing now. I grabbed my phone again. Still no signal. The van pulled beside us briefly. I looked down. The blonde woman sat in the passenger seat staring directly at me, still smiling. Blood dripped down her chin. Then she slowly raised one finger to her lips, like she was telling me to stay quiet. The van suddenly swerved away. At first I thought they'd given up. Then I saw why. Police lights appeared ahead. State troopers. At least 3 cruisers. The van instantly turned off its headlights and veered into an empty field beside the highway, disappearing into darkness. I slammed the brakes and pulled over near the officers. I practically fell out of the cab trying to explain everything. The cashier backed up my story completely. The troopers listened carefully before several units searched the surrounding fields. They found nothing.
No van.
No people. Nothing. The weirdest part came later. One trooper contacted the sheriff department from that county. Turns out the deputy whose cruiser we saw had already been missing for nearly 2 days. His abandoned vehicle was discovered earlier that evening 50 miles away. Different location entirely. To this day, nobody can explain how his cruiser ended up at that gas station, or who those people were. The gas station itself permanently shut down 3 weeks later. I know because I checked. And even now, years later, whenever I drive through Kansas late at night, I avoid exit 214 completely.